How's it going? This is Dylan with Dylan Talks Tone. Today we're going to talk about guitar storage, but before we do that, would you please go to the bottom of the screen right there and subscribe to our channel. We have over 200 videos of all kinds of stuff about guitar tech, about guitar tone, all kinds of stuff that I think you'll really dig. So if you subscribe to that, that'd be killer. We spoke about this week on our live radio show on kprlive.com on Monday nights at 9 Eastern time. We talked about some guitar storage. This came from a YouTube viewer. So how do you store your guitars? And what are some kind of do's and don'ts about storing your guitars? It's getting into the summertime, so we're worrying about temperature change and humidity change and stuff like that. So first things first, let's talk about humidity and temperature. We just don't want the temperature varying more than 10 or 15 degrees super fast. Now, it's gonna happen, right? But we just want it to happen more slowly. So, you know, that whole thing about guitars coming off of the UPS truck being super hot, let them kind of regulate to the temperature of your house before you open them. You know what? That takes longer than you think because the temperature in the case moves a lot more slowly than the outside temperature. As far as humidity goes, we keep our house and our shop set between about 45 and 55% humidity. Anything lower than that, you're going to start to get sharp fret ends. You're going to start to get some maybe some bellying out in the tops of an acoustic guitar. So that's one thing you want to watch for. If it gets above that, you'll actually start to get a rise in the top of your acoustic guitar. Sometimes that'll mess with your string action at the 12th fret, and it'll definitely mess with your neck relief. So that's one thing. Now let's talk about storage. Once we have our environment proper, then let's talk about how we store our guitars. Guitars don't like to be stacked, number one. So if you're going to leave them in the case, which there's a very good case for that, leave them upright like this, just like books in a bookshelf. Leaving them in a case is really cool because, like we talked about earlier briefly, it makes it easier for the temperature and the humidity to regulate because inside the case, those extremes don't happen as quickly as they would sitting out. So if you go into the wintertime and your house dries out because of forced air, if they're in a case, that happens more gradually. It's a lot easier on the instrument, okay? So leaving them in a case is really cool. Definitely, it also keeps them out of the sun. It keeps them out of UV light. You know, it's easier on the finishes. So that's cool. But the thing is we all like to play our guitars. We like to leave the ones out that we play. So what do you want to do to store those? Well, there's a few different, obviously there's many different stands available. This is one of those stands that you use, you know, performing on stage. And of course it sits in there like that and it's pretty stable. There's a couple of things you want to worry about there as well. Where it contacts the guitar back here, depending on the material and the finish, you could have some little funny spots in your finish on your guitar. So you really want to worry about that and check that. Make sure that doesn't melt finish like on a nitrocellulose guitar. This is a urethane finish, so it's probably going to be fine, but I still like to check it anyway, especially in more extreme temperatures if that were to happen. Okay? So that's one style. Here's another style. The normal wall hanger. Now we have tons of these because we have a lot of guitars around here. These are my favorite. Here again, you want to make sure that this rubber stuff right here that they put on the top of the wall hanger doesn't damage the finish right here at the peg head. Now a lot of people are going to tell you that they don't like to hang their guitars because it gives like extra stress to the guitar. There is no... If you have proof, here's what I'm just going to say. If you have proof of that, put it in the comments. I want to know about it because I've never ever seen it. But this doesn't hurt anything except for it does expose it to UV light. It does expose it to the instability in, temperature and humidity. Okay, so that is one thing to keep in mind. This is another guitar hanger that I really, really like. And they've not paid me or anything. But I like this one. Here's why I like this one. Because there's no contact with the guitar at all. And this rubber stuff that they use does not mess with nitro finishes. It doesn't mess with polyurethane finishes. The only thing about it is it could tip over. So that's the thing. We want to leave our guitars out. We want to play them, and we want to have them, accessible in the living room. But just make sure you're not going to hit them with the vacuum cleaner. Make sure your pets aren't going to knock them over. Make sure they're not going to fall over by themselves. Those are obviously things. But how you store them to keep them out playing is really up to you. There's really no wrong way to do it, as long as you don't damage the finish, knock the thing over, and remember that leaving them out is going to affect the humidity and temperature, of the thing. So you want to make sure that you regulate your temperature in your home or in your studio or in your shop to combat that. One more thing we want to talk about is, do we want to store our guitars with tension on the strings? Now, this is a pretty controversial subject. Some people say that you don't want to ship guitars or store guitars with tension on your strings. Here's the deal, though. A guitar is designed to have the pull of the strings pulling this way and the truss rod to be pulling the other way to counteract it, to balance that tension. Okay? If you take the strings off and there's no tension this way, there's no way to fight the neck from just going that way. Okay? Because it is designed to counteract that tension. If you don't counteract that tension and leave it to its own devices, especially over a period of time, that thing's just going to keep moving. Especially like a mahogany neck will move a lot. Okay? And here's what can happen. You can end up with that little ski jump down here at the end of the neck because the fretboard will have a hump in it right here. Sometimes you can end up with a little ski jump at the end right here if you over tension your strings. So if you're really die hard about taking your string tension off, don't take it all the way off. Maybe a step and a half, something like that. But leave some tension on the strings because it does pull the neck and it keeps it kind of where you want it to be for the next time you string it up. And you'll find that you'll have to fight with the setup a whole lot less if you leave some tension on it. I have a couple of guitars in the shop right now that I'm working on that the necks are all whooped out because they were stored for a long period of time with no strings on them, and it's taken a lot of work to get them straight enough to be playable again. You don't want to have that happen to you. Other than that, that's guitar storage. I hope you leave one out most of the time so you can play more. That's the thing, right? My name is Dylan. This has been Dylan Talks Tone. Please check out our radio show on kprlive.com on Monday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, where we talked about this and a whole bunch of other stuff. And also subscribe to all of our internets, Dylan Pickups and Dylan Talks Tone, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff, because we're doing all kinds of stuff all the time, every day. Have little projects going that you might be interested in. I hope you have a great day.